Yeah.
Please join me in the pledge of the flag.
Pledge my allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Matt, you're up first. Can you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Matt Hathaway. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm a fourth grade teacher in Walton Creek. I've been over in Walton Creek or Jackson Walton for the last 12 years. About 12 years ago, I'm sure a lot of you know, we started a program called Teachers in the Parks. About 7 years ago, we were adopted by the district and we've been offering as an Exeter program. I'd just like to share some updates with the board today, if you have any questions. And then I'd also like to share a larger vision for Teachers in the Parks that's been getting a lot of talk and publicity lately. So I'd like to start with a short video just to show you what we do in the park. This is our 2-minute highlight video from last summer. A group of seniors from the high school put that together for us last year, and did a really nice job with it. I'm just kind of capturing the essence of what we do. Long story short, it took 33 Exeter teachers to pull that off last year. And we were able to reach over 337 children in our math and reading programs, and an additional 80 children in our STEM program, in our STEM pilot last year. This year, we've never grown less than 100%. We came in, the last time I presented the board, we get about 250 to 300 kids, and we surpassed that. This summer, I realistically think that we can get over 500 children with our program in grades K to 6. So I'd like to just share a little bit about where we're going and the support we've received. First of all, this is my family. For those of you that don't know me, I come from a very large family. I'm one of 14 children. I have 10 adopted siblings. One of them is actually featured on the wall back there. Her name is Yomara. She's a senior this year. And then those characters are why I started Teachers in the Parks. My brother Alex, the guy in the sunglasses in the back, when he was in 3rd grade, there were no summer offerings for him, and that's when Teachers in the Parks started on my parents' back porch. This year I'll have 2 more of my siblings in the program, and it's really quite an honor. And that's in Community Park, the main park where we are. For this summer, I just want to give you some updates on ways we've grown since even just last year. The Antietam Pool is offered to open up the K-2 program to the public. Well, last year, you had to be a pool member to be entering the pool grounds. So this year, we'll have a full K-2 program with the hopes of adding a pre-K program next year. And I don't know what we can do with numbers there, but I expect the numbers to go from 33 last summer to well over 100 students in the K-2 program alone. It's going to take at least 35 Exeter teachers this year to make this program happen. One really neat thing, to keep children active over the summer, the Antietam Pool has actually agreed to allow our children to come early for, they're going to sponsor time to swim and free safety instruction around pools prior to class, which is a really neat thing. It's been a great incentive for our K-2 program. The Get a Book, Get a Book program was never out in Rain Hollow Park. We just didn't have the manpower, but this year we do, to be able to offer a book exchange for any child in the community, including those in the Exeter Parks and Rec programs. Something very exciting that just came together in the last 2 weeks. I don't know if you know Dr. Petras or not, but Dr. Petras approached us about offering a robotics class. So he's actually partnered with us in covering half the cost of the STEM robotics class. Steve Geibler is going to run the class this summer in conjunction with the Exeter Community Library. They're spending over $2,000 to purchase robot kits that can be controlled by Scratch software through computers, and the children are going to design programs to make these robots run. Really a neat program that just came together, and that's in conjunction with our founding partner, the Exeter Community Education Foundation, and also Dr. Petras, who will be covering those costs. This year, Sue Miller approached us about taking some children in the ESY program who have math and reading goals, which is very exciting for us. The district is partnering with us in that way to provide any aids or accommodations that they would need that TIPS can't provide. So any child with reading and math accommodations in the ESY program is now going to be a part of Teaching in the Parks. I'm talking about full inclusion. I mean, they're going to be with children of all levels in a really exciting program. Like I said, we expect to have over 500 students. This year, Exeter is not offering the regular K-1 program, and Teaching in the Parks is trying to absorb not only the students, but also the teachers from that program. So those teachers that used to teach in the summer school program and the K-1 program in Exeter are now recruiting them into TIPS, and then any child that would be eligible for those programs, the district is actually helping to pay for those students, especially for those students that receive Title I funding. They're helping to support them that way as well. Over the last many years, our first year, remember we had 18 students. I was so excited because we had a budget of $2,500. This year we expect the budget to be about $65,000 that we're able to bring in either through student fees and donations. So again, very exciting for us. And then we have a brand new website. That was the last update. If you haven't had a chance to check out teachersintheparks.com, please go on there. All of our videos are on there. And parents are actually sent there for registration. So now it's all handled automatically. They get a receipt automatically. And then when the time comes, we've been working with Ann for years. She keeps track of the payroll, and then Teachers in the Parks through the foundation writes the school district a check for X amount of dollars to reimburse the cost. So, anything I can answer, I know I went through a lot very quickly, and then we certainly don't have a ton of time this evening. But.
Now, what's the breakdown of your funding for your budget? Out of the $65,301, where does that come from?
We only have a couple real costs. The primary cost is staffing. That staffing cost is the biggest cost. We pay $30 an hour.
I actually meant, where did the money come from? Not so much where.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. The $7,500 is an ECEF donation to Teachers in the Parks. They also gave us an extra $1,000 this year, so $8,500. We also received $2,500 from the Exeter Township Education Association. And then miscellaneous adds up to about $4,000 to $5,000 through our fundraisers, through a basket raffle and things like that. And then the rest is covered by that student fee that we charge.
How much is the student fee?
The student fee breaks down to about $3.73 an hour for families, which comes to $90 for the whole summer in reading and math. And then it comes to $75 for the K-2 program. Then after May 1st, if we were going to run this and not get any donations, it would truly cost about $150 a student, and that's what we charge after May 1st. So we really pump registration until May 1st, and we can give the subsidized rates, and then.
Are you able to offer a scholarship for kids with free reduced?
Absolutely, yes. Especially the Teachers Dean's Day, all of that money goes directly towards grant money for students. So any child in Title I is getting help from the district this year through Title I funding. And then anybody who doesn't qualify for free and reduced is getting grants from their APTs. For example, the Lorraine APT donated $650 in grants just for their students alone. And then other miscellaneous funds. The truth is that we've never turned a child down for a grant. Anybody who checks the grant box on the Teachers in the Parks application is either getting half off tuition or full tuition.
That's one, I mean, if I have a concern about any programs like this, my number one concern always is access.
Yes.
And it needs to be 100%.
Yes, and we try our best. Like I said, we never turn down a child. We work at bare minimum, so we're gonna spend all this money this year, and we're gonna build it back up again next year.
Is $30 an hour, is that copacetic with the collective bargaining?
Yeah, and that's why we pay that amount.
Mhm.
And we also pay some pay time as well, so that's where those numbers come up. It costs us $1,080 to run one group of 10 kids for the summer, based on those numbers. Yeah.
How long is the summer wait for? Is it 4 weeks or 6 weeks?
It's a 6-week program. It could be extended into a 7 or 8 week program. We keep it at 6. It's June 27th through August the 6th, so it takes the heart of that summer.
Parents want to go on vacation.
Yeah. That's
What's the breakdown for the ages for everybody? K through 5, I think, right?
Yeah.
So is it like even, you think, every year? Is it kind of like a bell? Or?
Last year, now we do it on growth, so since we just first offered a K-2 program last year, those numbers obviously spiked because there was nothing before. But there actually is a pretty even distribution of students K through 5. I have a feeling this year, just in the parent surveys we received back, there is a tremendous interest in early childhood education. I taught 4th grade, which is why the program started there. If I was making a recommendation to another district, I would say start in your K-2, build 3, build 4, build 5, is how I would do it. So I have a feeling that our numbers in the K-2 are going to grow tremendously this year.
Now, when you do your program, now it looks like we're going to be using Lorraine, you are using Lorraine Hollow, you're still using Loush, you're using the library, and we're using NTM?
And Crestwood Pool.
And Crestwood, so all 5?
All 5 locations.
So it's kind of like when the people are signing, as parents are signing up, they know if they're going to this program, they're going to this
Yeah,
place.
it's pretty cool. It's
So you don't have to worry about Johnny went to the wrong pool or the wrong place.
I mean, unless they drive to the wrong
Well, they
wrong
should
place.
know
No,
where
they
they're
stop.
signing up.
Especially this year, it's really cool. When they go onto the TIPS website, and I highly recommend it. Go as if you're registering a child. It doesn't mess up our system unless you pay. So if you just go through, it's actually like online shopping, like Amazon. So it says purchase Lorraine Hollow Park from this time to this time. And then it tells you all the program details. It automatically generates an email that goes out, and their payment is automatically handled through that secure website.
With all the conversations we've had with Antietam, are we making this available to the students in that school?
Yes, I'm very glad you asked. This year, Antietam actually approached us because they were interested in the fixed model for themselves. And I said, listen, here's what we can do. We're already in Antietam pool. I said, if you'll subsidize that cost, so that the money we raise for Exeter students is not going to Antietam students. So the Antietam School Board actually offered $75 a student at subsidized cost for any student we register, so that we're charging them the same rate. And then they're also having their own grants for children that can't afford the program. We are a Mount Penn Primary Center. I get the names confused. The young building and the middle building. We're in both buildings. I actually went over and made a presentation to their entire staff, and they're pumping the TRIPS program to get their young kids in.
Where do you see your program next year? Beyond this, we look at other school districts should we expand to? Or
Yeah,
like Daniel Middle, or-
yeah, certainly. And we can talk about the bigger vision. If you don't mind, if I can just start with the
Yeah,
small
I'm
vision,
sorry.
and then get bigger.
Carl,
This little
what
book
question?
out. Yes.
Yeah, the K-1 program that doesn't exist anymore, what was that you're absorbing the teachers?
That was the actual summer school program that was offered to children, I believe that were only eligible through title funding. And they also had to be struggling readers according to the reading specialist would make recommendations, and they would know, I think it would rotate from building to building, which school had summer school that year. And then they were having trouble with attendance, and then funding as well.
Excuse me, how many hours a day then do you do this class?
Sure. The K-2 program is a 1-hour class in reading and math, because developmentally for children in that age level, especially at the pool, an hour's about max in kindergarten. And then the grades 2 to 5 program is somewhere between an hour and a half to 2 hours, depending on the location. And the schedule we can work out in the person.
Have you ever tracked the students that go there to see how they have, have they kept what they were supposed to keep from June
Yeah.
to September? Have you tracked that?
We have, what we tracked in reading was DILS. DILS assessment is just kind of a universal assessment. I don't think it gets even comprehension or anything, it's just strictly a number. But every child in our reading program 2 summers ago was ready for the next grade level benchmark at the beginning of the year. They had not progressed. The only exception was fourth grade listed by 2 words. Still pretty good. That's still pretty good. Math is a little tougher. We've been transitioning in the math program. The math foresight kind of left right when we were interested in doing that. But an organization called Communities in Schools has actually organized, and I put it in your folders, the University of Penn is starting the Teachers in the Parks program this year, which is a really exciting opportunity for us, for Penn to come out and do that. So we're still working on funding with that. We just got a state budget. I was just in Harrisburg again yesterday, trying to get funding for that Penn study. So, and that would be a validation study that we could take this summer with. So. Yes?
I have 2 questions, Matt. Am I hearing you correctly? Are you saying that you do pre-post testing for students in the program?
No, we took the end of the, now we will be when we get to the more formal study. But when we did the dribbles, it was the end of the year benchmark. So let's say a 3rd grader, the end of the year benchmark in 3rd grade, the beginning of the year benchmark in 4th grade.
So you're using district data?
Yes.
So you're tracking kids who participated in the program and you're just using?
Yes, we had to be nameless data according to Dr. Martin, so we certainly respected that, we just took the numbers out.
Okay. And the curriculum that you're using, is this a sort of a, is this an empirically validated curriculum or teachers left up to their own?
For years, all that we had were the district materials. So, for example, I know when I worked with Dr. Davies on the new math curriculum. So we were able to meet last year, see what our students truly needed to transition from one grade level to the next. And then we got together. We received a grant, Teachers in the Parks through the Community Foundation, received a grant for a formal curriculum writing. So we privately paid somebody to look at the PA core and the national core standards and truly just nail the standards that a child would need from grade level to grade level. So we also have that. But the truth is, we want to make sure that every district has exactly what they need and can use their own materials and their own thought process within the structure of these standards, is what we do.
So when you say every district, you mean?
Any district that would come on board. For example, Schuylkill Valley this year has Teachers in the Parks program. Governor Mifflin this year has a Teachers in the Parks program. The School District is joining us this year. And then we had to refuse a couple others because truthfully we still have time.
Do all those kids come into Exeter?
No, they're going to be their own
Okay.
independent, call it franchise. So, they're going to be their own thing.
So do you help them as far as getting things together, or how does that work? Even though they're doing their own thing?
We have some great partners. For example, our printing and promotional partners, things that districts don't want to spend the time to do or don't have the time to do. So we provided that to all these districts. We've also just had trainings, and the trainings are going to come in where the teachers actually do in the parks, and then how do they develop the community resources needed. So it'll be 2 days of training in the future. For this year, we're meeting informally through Skype and things like that.
This program, this does not in any way supplant special needs kids extended year, right?
Yes, actually, this will be the SY program for a population that has reading and math goals.
Okay.
So yes, they will supplant that.
And is the district compensating you for those? I mean, they.
This year, no.
Out special education, ESY dollars for that?
Oh, yes, they're covering the cost of any child in ESY. So they're paying the Teachers in the Parks tuition, so it's a break even for both organizations. Is that what you do?
We budget ESY, so.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if it's money, tips or whatever.
It would be a wash.
So all that we asked was that break even number, the actual cost of the program be paid so that, we end up giving them money back. This money is actually money.
Now, all the teachers that you have in the program, not only this program, but teachers outside of other districts, are they all properly certified?
They have to be. Yes, they have to be district employees because what we do is our TIPS teachers are actually extra employees. So they're paid through the payroll. Teachers in the Parks then reimburses the district for any dollar spent so that we can support the TIPS program.
Are you paying per diem rate?
Yeah, whatever the CBA requires. Is what we'll be paying that $30.
Okay, so it's not the teacher's per diem rate, it's the district's per diem rate.
It's
The same thing.
It's what's in the collective bargaining unit that teachers will be paid for additional work.
Oh, okay, so it's not based on that.
But hold on. Everybody has one.
Say that again.
I don't think, you said $30?
Yeah.
The curriculum rate is $32 an hour.
All right, they got a raise. Is that how it
$30.
Okay.
The summer school rate?
Is that what that was? Okay.
It's not tied to the collective bargaining.
Okay, in the summer school grade, I talked to Ann, I try to keep in communication with Ann to make sure that we're doing things right, and paying people accordingly, so 30 an hour was what the teacher was making for summer work. Thank you.
Now, one other, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, this is great, thank you.
I just had a question about, if you add the pool, is there any concern for additional exposure of liability? Because
Sure. We've had that conversation at length, at the foundation level. Loomis does offer an additional policy, and things like that, certainly. And then the pool also is taking liability for any time spent in the water, that's their program, not ours. We're just using the pavilions. Is how that goes.
Okay.
Matt, we need to finish up in about 10, not more than 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah, certainly. So, anything else I can answer quickly? All right, very quickly, I'll go through this incredibly fast. What we did was we took 3 students to properly understand the summer slide. I'll go through this very quickly. Student 1, 2, 3. All start at the same spot in kindergarten. When they start first grade already, if a child is affected by the summer slide, especially for children in poverty, which is where the heart of this program is, they start 2 months behind, 6 to 8 weeks behind a child that was able to break the summer gap. So our goal is actually maintenance. So if I could come over here. A child that is able to break the summer gap, and this is the goal of teachable parts. This is what we do. If you can maintain that summer gap and not lose over the summer, that puts you ahead of a child that loses. So our goal is absolute maintenance of skills from one year to the next, which is why our curriculum is designed the way it is. If a child regresses that 6 to 8 weeks, which statistically it says it will, it takes them another 2 months to get back to where they were in June, and that's a 4-month gap. That's the summer learning gap. So maintenance is truly the goal. Now, there are children with opportunities that a lot of children don't have. If you can progress through the summer and keep that skill set moving, you can actually hit, we ran the simulation all the way out through high school. You can actually reach a high school level, and you know these children, by about 10th, 11th grade. The child who really suffered from that summer gap finishes 2.6 grade levels behind a child who did not bridge the summer gap. So that's really what we're after, is that blue line, trying to make those children who would be impacted either by poverty or just a lack of skill over the summer to reach that high school level by high school.
Now with that, what you just said, do you then encourage children that we see, that the teacher sees maybe in first grade or at the end of kindergarten or second, or whatever grade it is, to encourage their parents and talk to them about the TIPS program?
Absolutely. The reason that this works is because it's local teachers and local parks with local kids. And the children and the teachers, I can tell you right now who will have the most kids in TIPS are the teachers who are involved in the program and know the benefit. So I can probably pick out 4 or 5 teachers right now that I know will have the largest populations. We're also working with our reading specialists to make sure that any child that really needs this program is at least being approached and then offered grant money if money is appropriate. So that's the beauty of this partnership between, local community funding and also partnership with the district that we've had.
And then you find the parents being very supportive?
Without a doubt. They actually express that it's actually very cheap. I included our surveys from last year. The real magic in those surveys is the parent testimonials. We have pages and pages and pages of parent testimonials from last year. If you read nothing else out of that folder I gave you, please read the parent testimonials.
Thanks, Matt. As we come to a conclusion, do you have requests for the board, or what would you?
Well, what we'd like to do, that we're getting to a size in our program, say 500 students in our program, where we've approached Lowell Keebler, and we've also approached Mike Japina about adding just a few small co-curricular positions to help set the model, Exeter as the model. So what we'd like to do is just have two small positions as site managers, somebody for our early childhood program, somebody for our 2 through 5 program, where they would get paid a stipend like someone who ran a club, a chess club, you name it. Someone who is on site, responsible for those sites, and can answer field questions. The other position that we're after would be essentially my position, someone who all year is developing the fundraising, developing the advertisements, working on projects like this, and then essentially putting the entire program together. That's a year-long position. And I've already contacted Mike knows the process, and Lowell's already on that too. So any support you can give that project, we really appreciate it.
What would you be doing if you did that?
No, I mean, I would certainly do that. To be perfectly honest, what the state is after, we work very closely with the involvement of PDE. And what he is seeking is a board, a visionary board to give tips for home. To offer, a board that would offer us 2 positions full-time, so we would have the time to go out in the county, or out in the region, or out in the state, to teach people to do what we've done. The Berks IU was approached, they said because of the finances, they weren't in a position. So currently, they're seeking another IU that would give us a home. It's really what it would take, we've got 2 positions in operating budget to give us a home. There was talk about monetizing tips and what we could do, and we talked about that for years at the foundation. What could we do to bring money back to Exeter? And if Exeter were the home, we could certainly work something out so we can monetize it. Offering the trainings and bringing money back to the district either through the foundation or directly to its programs. So, just a vision for it.
PDE didn't offer any funding for that.
Funding, they had set us up with all these funders, but we don't have as a board to actually write the applications to get the funding.
So if we write a grant application, all we need to do is write the grant application, and then we will be able to attain the grant monies that are available then to be able to finance this. Because otherwise, obviously, it appears to any school district that if we're going to fund yourself, anyone who goes in a full-time position,
Right.
to go talk to the world, kind of like, well, it's nice, but what's the benefit?
Right, I mean,
But
and-
if you just need to be, the grant writer, and you need a home
Right.
base, I think that's something that we need to talk about.
And there's a lot that goes into that, liability going out, and so there are so many things, but if this is the conversation that this board is interested, this is my home, this is where I grew up, this is my family. The Berks IU, I would love to have it there, but if not there, kids are kids wherever they are. And if we can help kids over the summer, I know it's an unusual request. There's nothing like that right now, which is why we're trying to create this space for funding, which is so difficult. But if there were a board visionary enough to house us, to give us a home, to be able to go do that, we'd certainly want to be a win-win for both organizations.
Is this something that Mike knows about?
Yeah, well, Mike and I talked.
I'd like to just give you a little update as to where we are in the process, because we were talking about this since January. The reason the issue came to me is because the athletics committee oversees the Exeter curricular salary structure. So, what Matt approached us with is he's looking for 3 of the co-curricular positions. And he said, as you know, our salary structure goes from a scale of 1 to 12, 1 being the lowest, 12 being the highest. The 2 co-curricular positions, roughly looking at putting them in around category 11, which is a salary range between $1,000 and $1,250 per position. The other position, which would be the position Matt is looking for, would be akin to sort of a head coach of a larger sport program. So you'd be at a level 1 or a level 2 within that salary structure, which would range somewhere between $3,843 and $6,748 based on the structure that's in place now. There is a process that is put in place through the collective bargaining agreement. It includes a convening of an ad hoc committee, which is chaired by the head of the athletic committee with involvement both from the district and from the union. And at that point, that's where that discussion occurs as to whether or not we want to proceed with the positions. If we decide to proceed, then it has to come to the board for a vote. The problem is we haven't even gotten to that point yet, because the district really right now has no legal, financial, or contractual obligation or arrangement with the TIPS program. We're not under any sort of a written contract with them. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, we're district employees that we're supporting in that way, but no formal written agreement.
And so, what Matt, I think, finds himself in, and I know we talked a little bit about this last week, he's in this classic entrepreneurial dilemma, which is, he's got this great idea for a program, he has plans to develop it, there's interest, while there might not be money there yet from other funders, there's certainly a high level of interest. And so he's got to find a way to generate more money in order to proceed, to pursue the vision. The challenge for us is that, we're a public entity that's run with taxpayer dollars. So we, I think, have to we have to determine here whether we either want to actually fund these positions, which would be the first time that we're actually paying, money directly to the TIPS program, you know, to the, so, or do, as Matt and I have talked about, is there some way to package and monetize this program, make it a product of the Exeter Township School District, which, if that happens, you know, Matt owns this thing hook, line, and sinker right now, somehow he'd have to share that arrangement with the district, and then you package this and sell it as a product for school districts all over the country. You can do that. Now, I don't think we have necessarily the entire level of subject matter experts we do here to create a franchise, but I think that's another option, and we're just trying to figure out, you know, where we go from here. But then that also brings sort of its own level of challenge, because if the, you know, can the district support or invest in a privately owned entity? So, you know, that's a discussion where if Matt says, hey, you know what, I'm willing to give you guys half of it. Now, I'm not gonna give it for free. That's something I think we would have to sort of figure out, you know, how that's gonna work out. I'm sorry, Jim, I'm just trying, I'm trying to figure out how do you get some bigger thinking going on here. And then I have my fiduciary responsibility hat on as a board member, which is, okay, so you're in, 5 or 6 public locations. I don't even want to know what the liability insurance is for each of those different locations. I don't know if you carry that liability insurance or.
We've had this discussion at length, especially with Dr. Martin. What it comes down to is a summer program being offered by the district. So if someone's going to sue us, they're coming after everybody involved, the DCEF, the Exeter Township School District, and the parks. Everybody involved, is what that comes down to. So I'd like to button that up, yes.
So we're gonna need more discussion on this.
Yes.
Wait, we do have insurance or we don't?
We do not have specific insurance for teachers in the parks, no, for the district.
So then we're assuming responsibility for the insurance of this program at this point, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Is our carrier now?
Not that I would know, this is the first time I'm hearing that we're not insured in this program. That's something we have to speak to about our carrier.
See, the thing I was looking at were 2 different things. One was, if we're looking at these advisory type positions, is there a way to wrap that into the overall cost of the program, that the students would basically self-fund those individuals that we want to rather than year
Yeah,
and then on site?
The problem is we're getting to a budget where, a budget of $65,000 generated independently is very tough. We work at it tremendously to get that. To have that help from the district, and that would just be the Exeter people. I mean, the Exeter people running the Exeter program, the Exeter parks.
Yeah, what I was going to tie was that if we're now taking our ESY children and we're utilizing this particular program, ESY, then that could actually tie that advisor into the ESY, so therefore it's an extra type of responsibility that can kind of.
And the confusion comes only because this grew out of grassroots here in Exeter. The way that it grew is why we're trying to figure this out now.
Right, and I think we have to figure that. And the other thing I was getting at was beyond where you were at, Mike, was if you're talking more of getting the state funding and having these grant applications, it's beyond just this, you know, stipend type of $1,000 thing. We're talking about a full salary here. And that's where we have to figure out how we break that grant application and put those dollars to become available.
If that's a conversation we'd love to have, I'd love to involve the Deputy Secretary of Education, communities and schools, the national nonprofit, because they've listed a whole bunch of different funding avenues. The last one I received yesterday was a grant anywhere from $1 million to $10 million. In my mind,
How much your 65K for you?
yeah, so
The community in schools is a private organization.
yes, they are, and that's where the
Are
partnership.
they willing to sponsor you?
They'd be willing to do the site management for teachers in the park. So for example, we would be able to provide the training, but over the summer, I can't replicate myself 900 times, but they have the organization that would do the site management piece. So there's a lot in place. It's just, I teach 4th grade, I'm not willing to sacrifice the time of my kids, and I work as many hours as I can.
So Mike, you think your committee could continue this conversation and then make a recommendation?
Well, I can tell you that I'm willing to move forward on it, but I also need to have, we have to come together as the administration and also the union, the way it's written.
Yeah, exactly. That was going to be mine.
And I don't know if there's implications in the collective bargaining agreement to this at all as well, because we're also in the middle of negotiation.
My concern is when we then have to, we never bargain, our summer salaries, our summer hourly rate. If the coordinators are in the contract, then would be required that we negotiating every time in the summer for the tips teachers also. It's been always a district prerogative what to offer. For our summer program, our ESY program is we set the rates. So my concern would be, are we ready to make the next step and bargain everything about the summer?
Well, and I would say too, I mean, you would certainly have the practice of $30 an hour, the practice of getting your decision. And the positions themselves are already established on that scale. So, as long as I'm here, whatever the district says is ready for summer school, is ready for summer school.
So my suggestion that the committee continue the conversation, really looking at all the angles. We're not making any commitment at this time, but to explore all the different aspects that have to be taken into account. Because we have another presentation now.
Yes, thank you for your
I
time.
just want to have one suggestion. I know that Senator Schwank has visited the site and she is champion, but you know what? Maybe I would like to make a suggestion to you that take all the representatives that represent Exeter and give them an opportunity and ask them to come and visit. And so that maybe they would be on board. And since we now have Antietam involved in it and Schuylkill Valley, you know, I think if we want to start anywhere, we should start with Berks County and go on from there. And if that is so successful, then I think we can go to the next stage.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Sincerely, thank you.
Dave, wait,
Just, no, 500.
So basically, we're looking at 12.5% of the student body involved.
Well, I mean, if you look at the
Based on
basic
4K.
population, sure. Maybe that's a much larger percentage of it. Population percent.
from what you know of the extracurricular formula, is it possible to make these positions fit?
In terms of that
Yeah.
structure. Yeah, I mean, there's flexibility there. I think we just have to figure out.
No, but I think there's also criteria, it's how you get to a certain level, and do these positions have that criteria? That's my
Can answer that. But Russ, I think the other, I know we don't have time to get into it, but I think the other issue that can't necessarily be separated from this either is the discussion we have in the Exeter community education. Because they're sort of at a crossroads, and I know that they can fund you as well.
Yeah.
So it's almost like there's an inexorable link between both of these activities. I don't feel the same way.
Yeah.
Feel like there's.
It is, and we do have to resolve the connections that we want to connections to foundation too, because there are issues and, there are big decisions to be resolved.
Thank you. Thanks, Matt.
I'd like to invite our next presenters up for our district-wide facility study proposal, KCBA Architects.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you so much. We have to just take 1 minute and just plug in here when we set it up.
Just need that.
It's a little squish.
We are ready when you are.
Yes, thank you.
Apologize for that delay. We're all set. We got full screen
We
for it.
should also apologize.
It's all good. It's all good. Again, my name is Jay Clough. I'm the managing principal of KCBA Architects. I want to thank you for inviting us. I want to tell you we're excited to be here, kind of talk about your district-wide study, some of the opportunities. What I want to do is basically have the people that are with me, the team members, kind of introduce themselves and then briefly tell their roles. As you might imagine, as the managing principal, my job is to make sure we got the staffing, make sure we're hitting the budget, make sure we're hitting on the schedule. I do have a particular personal role in this, in that I will be involved in a lot of the public presentations.
I'm Ed Mangold. I would be acting as your project manager, day-to-day contacts on the job. I'll be working very closely with Jay, keeping an eye on those big picture items, as well as coordinating our in-house staff and our consultants, two of whom are here this evening. Steve, if you want to introduce yourself.
My name is Steve Gribb. I'm principal at Systems Design Engineering. I'm handling the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, engineering support for KCBA on this study. Some of you may know me. I'm a resident of the township for the past nearly 20 years. Volunteered with Jim Brady, Mr. Brady, on some of the facilities committees for support. And over the past years in a different life was a part of some of your previous projects.
Hi everybody, my name is Jonathan Sims. I represent Decision Insight, and we are the demographer on this team. We've done a number of studies, a number of projects across the state of Pennsylvania. I represent the state for Decision Insight. We've also worked on a number of projects specifically with KCBA at school districts across in the eastern part of the state.
Thank you, John. And then we round up the team with our civil engineer, Terraform. They've been with us a long, long time and have a pretty good idea of what we need to look at when we look at site issues. And of course, the associates would kind of take care of those food service things. So with that team, we can look at anything you have. I think there's three things that I want you to remember about us. Number one is our experience. We've been around about over 40 years. And during that time, we are specializing in K-12 and especially K-12 studies. And basically, we have a pretty good idea of what's going on. Just to give you an example, in the last 13 months, we've done 5 studies, 5 district-wide studies in 13 months.
And we're doing one right now in Altoona. We're talking about Altoona because it's kind of fun when we get around the road, when we get down the road a little bit. Next one. We have a really, really specialized staff, and I think that really helps when you're trying to get a feasibility study together. You have to look at some special things. In addition to architects, we have our own structural engineers, we have our own space planners, we have our code specialists, we have interior designer. When those people are a few desks apart, you really can get a real better control over the study. And we get somebody out here right away when we see something unusual, so it gives us better service that we can do. The other thing that happens, we document everything in 3 dimensions. Even the studies, you'll see examples coming up in a little bit. What that means is you get a better understanding of what's going on. Finally, in terms of dedication, we have developed a system to get input from all the stakeholders. That's pretty important to do. And we really can tailor it, and we'll tailor it to you so everybody feels comfortable that they've had input into what's going on. Basically, it really centers on communication. And because communication is so important, I want to make you this promise, and I don't think many firms will do it. This team will meet anytime, and I've done it Sunday afternoons, believe it or not. They've had boards that have this in Sunday afternoon. Anytime, any place, as long as you want, for the same fee. Because we think that communication is so important. At the end of the day, we want it to feel as though it's your study, not our study. So those are the 3 big things I want you to remember. Talked a little bit about Altoona. This is interesting, and just to show you that we don't come in with any bias. Altoona has 20 buildings, and there's absolutely nothing that's off the table there. We're looking at consolidations, we're looking at redistricting, we're looking at renovations, additions, we're looking at reopening buildings that are repurposed for something else like the one you're in now. All those things going on. So just to show you, we kind of live in that world of what ifs. That's kind of what we're doing there. This is my favorite. It's not too far down the road from you, the Downingtown STEM Center. We took a really beat-up old library and we switched it, and we turned it into a knowledge center where out of that they have actually grown one of the #1 high schools in the state of Pennsylvania. They're delivering a 21st century education. I like to believe our space had a little bit to do with that, so that's kind of fun. We're going to switch it to Eddie, a project that's close to you and close to his heart.
You may recognize the site through all the colorful diagrams, but this is the Township Municipal Complex. I'm working with them right now to really take a holistic look at that campus. That all stemmed out of an initial involvement with the fire department, looking at the site across Gibraltar Road. We realized that there were a lot of township functions that are happening over there at this moment, and displacing that would cause issues on the other side. So we approached the township to broaden that study so they can have a holistic view of all the working pieces on that site, which is a very choice. So this actually is probably more dear to your heart. Is we did a quick model of Oahu Creek, which was your newest facility, obviously, and we're just using this as an illustrative piece to show that one of the tools that we use. We use a lot of 3D imagery. So our project approach. So you as a school board have a very challenging job of balancing 2 very strong components. Your main mission, which is to educate your students in the district, and balancing that against operations, everything from security to day-to-day operations and maintenance and keeping everything going. So our study looks through the lens of both of those pieces. We touch on everything, and we make all of our decisions and recommendations with you as a group through that lens of balancing those 2 very important and integral pieces, the operations and the education. So rather than read, these are the slides I gave, they're all text, so I'm not going to read it. But we do know that there's some specific things relative to your district that we're going to spend a little extra time focusing on during the study. One of them is your one-to-one initiative for technology, and I know that is a challenge in working with other districts that have various vintage buildings and capabilities. One-to-one was not considered in the early 2000s, let alone back in the 30s when some of the buildings were built originally. So that's going to be a challenge that we want to focus on that we can provide recommendations on how to foster that program. Speaking of different age buildings, you do have a diverse portfolio of schools with various additions, some new, some old. One of the really important, and we talk about balance a lot, is making sure that the parity is there from school to school, that your students are all receiving the same high quality education, no matter what kind of building they're in. So supporting that with any kind of recommendations we give you is an important piece to the study. So we're going to be crawling around your building, our office, our consultants, really getting under the hood and developing this existing conditions narrative about the classrooms, the educational components, everything from finishes to functionality, your mechanical systems. They're all displayed in a nice narrative, easy to understand way with associated photographs to help tie everything together. That's just the start of the study. We'll also be looking at the Energy Star. This is a program, it's an online portfolio manager. If you're familiar with it, I understand the previous facilities director had very good records on building usages for utilities and systems. So that's going to make this process, which is required as part of your back study, to do. So that'll really help us with that. Our stakeholders. This piece is key. And on day one, we'll be sitting down with your facilities committee group to design how that's going to go. We want to get all the information we can get in as short amount of time as possible. So if that's small groups, one-on-one, a mix of that, we're going to build that process with your facilities committee and whoever else you want us to talk to. Because getting all of that information up front is going to set the basis for the rest of the study. It's going to feed a lot of it. We developed this really cool, it doesn't look super cool on the screen, but this is a living document. It's physical needs matrix. So when we go through your building, a lot of that narrative information also has things to consider that you might want to address. And you're not going to be able to address everything at one time. So what we do is we catalog everything. This document is sortable by school, by type, if it's a site issue, mechanical issue, electrical, infrastructure issue. Each of those is identified along with a description of what it is. And every piece, and this is very important, has a cost associated with it. So that's going to help us make a decision and fill in that priority column. We have priorities 5, which is critical, down to 1, which is something to look at in time. So as we can sort by the critical items as well and see what the cost of those things will do. So that's an important tool that we're going to use to help identify possible recommendations. What's really going to be great is we understand you're going to be having a new facilities director coming in. This is going to be a tool that they'll be able to use for a long time. As things get taken care of, they can be removed, and this will help with the roadmap for yearly budgets and capital improvement plans.
How many years out do you do that projection?
Those items, I think the number 1 is like 6 to 8 years. Number 2 is sometimes 4 to 6 years. But we'll work with you to come up with some overtime projections using that tool. So we're not going to just drop it on your lap. Make use of it all the time. We're also going to be developing a program when we sit on those small group or one-on-ones with your staff, with your principals, to go through the buildings. And as we go through, we're going to be building your existing conditions, which is on the left side. It catalogs every room, how many of them you have, the size. And then based on the feedback we're getting, we're going to see where the improvements need to happen, what we're hearing, and that might impact number of spaces, size of spaces. So it's almost like a wish list comparison, so you can see where you are, and then we fill in that desired program goal. And we also provide our input and experience with 40 plus years at KCBA to help guide size. Capacity analysis, and this is going to be something that we're going to work closely with on day 1. basically analyzing this against PDE requirements and what they identify as their capacity. So on day one, we'll give you a snapshot like this where we'll list all of your facilities and where they stack up capacity-wise relative to PDE. From that base point, as we develop scenarios, we'll be talking about, does it make sense to have a K-4 and then a 5-6, and a 7-8 building, a 9-12 high school? We're going to be looking at all those things with you. Like Jay said, most of our studies, we had come in with no preconceptions. We're here to kind of lift all the rocks and put everything through spaces. So this visual tool gives you a quick identification of what each of those scenarios, I think we have up to 9 at this particular school, maybe more at district. This says construction options. We understand that you don't have any major construction projects coming up in the slate. But this is where everything comes together. We've identified the program needs by talking to everybody and analyzing the buildings. We know the building needs based on the assessments we do. We know how much, like which of those items are critical, so that's going to identify your time table for things, as well as the associated costs. So we use that and basically put it into several options. That could be everything from new carpet and paint to small renovations to small renovation, small addition. All those options will be developed and presented along with associated items. So everything you have will have costs associated with them. And all of the options will be built upon real data and real information that's going to be shared with you and work through the entire process. So no surprises. This is that same SketchUp tool, but oftentimes we'll use it to illustrate how we can get maximum use out of some existing spaces by introducing some operable walls to get additional space for SGIs, converting them into LGIs. And this example right here is the Forest City School District. This is one of the studies that we recently completed in the last year. They had a strong early childhood literacy program, actually at pre-K in the school. So that was one of the things, one of the focuses of their improvements. And they also had security issues at all the main entrances at all the schools. And you can see the main entrance is right next to the admin. Once you're buzzed in, you get free reign. So minimal input and budget for maximum impact. You can see that the building itself, the shell was all there. We were able to really give them a lively, both the rich environment every time the students walk through the doors of this. Enrollment. I'm going to pull John up real quick and minimize this presentation for just a second. He's going to show you his website.
And I represent Decision Insight, and we'll handle the demographic piece of the study. A full-on comprehensive demographic analysis is very important in a feasibility study like this. When you're taking a look at the capacity in the schools, when you're taking a look at the future and the direction that you want to go, it's so important to have a solid idea through thorough analysis what the trending genuinely is over the next 5 to 10 years. Now you may have a hunch on that, you may believe that it's flat, you may believe it's increasing or decreasing, but we go in and do a significant amount of research and analysis within the district, and we're unique as far as demographers go, in that in the end, we don't provide you with just a static report, 100-page report or whatever that you can read through and take into consideration throughout the year. We provide all that data in a format that's in the cloud that you can actually tap into in the system here and analyze on an ongoing basis. And there are two components to that. There's one, which is community-wide demographics. That's already in the system. That comes from a variety of sources like census and other demographic data providers. providers like Experion and so forth. I could click in right now and pull up all kinds of data that relates to the community. Then there's a second component, which is really where we shine. And this is actually, this is Parkland District over by Allentown. And what we do is upload your historical student data. We bring in 4 years of historical data into the system. We actually have the ability to populate the students with geocoding. This is their students on the map. You can assign a variety of attributes. So if you want to take a look at where your free and reduced lunch students are, your Title I students, special ed, whatever the case may be, if you want to analyze where it makes sense to have special programs, we can handle that for you very easily graphically on this mapping. More importantly, that data comes into the system and we use it to create 2 sets of projections, moderate and a conservative set, 10-year projections. Those become the underpinning in the system and allow the architects, right, most importantly here in their analysis, to utilize it to discern what makes sense such that you don't run into a wall 5 or 10 years down the road. Secondarily, you have the ability to actually go in and move these boundaries around. This is very rudimentary, but I can just like that click back in. I've got a new boundary. We can do what's called a geographic area projection, and rather than just see what this new population is in the new boundary now, a snapshot in time, you can see what the ramifications are 5, 10 years down the road. Now, you may not have any intention to redraw a boundary at all, but it's really helpful should that need arise. You have this access for the full school year to be able to consider doing that. That's the essence of what we do. Happy to answer any questions you might have after this.
I just have a quick one.
Yes.
So in going through this facilities assessment, what do we gain by having this analysis, and what do we lose by not having it?
You would gain the understanding that as we look at the capacity in each of your schools, and if you're trying to understand to any extent what changes you may need to make that are going to impact the future, you're going to have a wealth of data that's going to help the architects as well as you within the district understand what that trending is down the road, rather than if it's just a year out, if a solution is recommended, that's great. The students fit in this school, and this school. Without it, you may say you have, and one good example is if you have plenty of capacity in your schools and you have no intention of consolidating or making any changes. Frankly, if all the capacity is there, you have no worries about hitting a wall student population-wise down the road, then it may not be nearly as important to you. So hopefully that gets it.
Yeah, I want to make sure that when we look at the proposals in general, that, I mean, not everybody, I mean, I know last week we were told that we just get a bigger, nicer report with no more relevant information. And I'm a little surprised at the statement, because I think that, a certain approach to analytics would certainly add a cost to a proposal, but it also might provide us with, more long-term insight as to, understanding not only our market, but more specifically our contiguous markets, because we do see people right, within our, the city of Reading coming out here to go to school in Exeter, or, other districts in this area. So I'm sorry.
Let me just add one caveat to that. One thing I didn't mention is that we take a full look at any residential development that may be going on in the community. Maybe there isn't any. I mean, I'm not sure. Anywhere where you've got farmland like you have here, there's potential for it. So as efforts are going on maybe to preserve that farmland, there are competing efforts with developers looking to get in there and get licenses approved for developments. We analyze that thoroughly as well. And that's something that can blindside a district when you're looking at this.
So we purchased a facility study, we spend money on the study, and with that comes, the demographic analysis you described, decision insight. So my question is, I mean, this is a good tool for school districts to use in an ongoing fashion. Once the facility study is completed and this information incorporated in that study, do we continue to have the use of decision insight services and the mapping systems and the geocoding and everything else you described to come along with decision insight?
That's a great question. There are a few different ways that it could play out. We actually, in our initial proposal, we give the district 3 options. You could, because there is a subscription component to it as well, like you're mentioning. So you could go with a 1-year, a 3-year, a 5-year, and then those are at a sliding scale, expense-wise. There's also absolutely no harm. You come in for the 1 year with the study, see how much you use the system as well, and then make your decision after that. Parkland, as an example, came on with us for a pretty significant study for 1 year, and then they really saw the value of having the system in ongoing enrollment projections. So they recently opted to go with a 5-year plan on it. So it could go either way. There's also, there's one other factor. There's a lesser study or a lesser component, which is just the student view system, which is at ballpark half the cost. You might want to do that, so you have access to everything in the system, but you don't want the projections.
Yeah, I was looking at some of the costs in the initial proposal that came to the school district, and it seemed like it was a little higher than if you were just to, let's say, utilize your subscription for 1 year. And so I'm wondering what we're getting in the facility study that would make that cost more so than that 1-year subscription for decision insight.
The other options that you may have seen, I'm not exactly sure how it was shared from KCBA, but if we saw different options, those are just for extended periods. So there is a 1-year total that would be what you essentially be going
Yeah,
with.
ballpark figure and costs.
Yes, yeah, that's, I can say exactly what.
We don't mark it up. So
It just-
whatever,
it's-
we goofed it up, we didn't mean to, and whatever you showed, we're
The,
passing through to you.
That's the study as well as the full year of service is $12,344.
Oh, okay.
And then there's a residential development piece, which is a not to exceed component, that's $1,500.
So if it comes without the study, what would the cost be just for the subscription for 1 year?
For that full year, you would have to have the study, because that's the underpinning for the projection piece. You could, and I know this is a little bit challenging, but if you wanted just the student view system without any projections, and you wanted to see your students populated and analyze that kind of data, it would be ballpark half of the cost there, but you wouldn't have any of the projection analysis.
I have a question.
Okay, no, you guys go, so we'll go this side of the court after your side.
My question simply was, in the previous facility study that was done, did we do analytics and did we project a reduction in enrollments with experience?
That's one of the things I wanted to bring up. You mentioned